patio, but I'm too lazy to come out here every day and water them. So I made this garden that I don't have to do anything except look at. So it worked out
Awesome.
well. Hey, Michael,
Good morning.
how you doing?
Going.
Good
Good.
morning.
Good to see everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Vanessa, how's it going?
Hi, guys.
Good to see you, John. I think it's been a couple of weeks.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
How about you?
Well, super.
Good. Good.
Couldn't be better.
So glad to hear that. I read a quote this weekend, and I wanted that to be our launching point today. And it goes something like this: whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. Whatever you're not changing, you're choosing. And so I wrote down, inaction is action, and passivity is actually activity. It made me think of these Congress people who sit out on a vote thinking that if I don't take a stand, if I don't vote yay or nay on something, that I can't be held to it. I can't be, I can still try to have it both ways. But the truth is that action or inaction is an action. And that choice is just that. It's a choice, and it says everything. And so I'd like for us to talk today and think about choices we make, choices that determine our very lives. And there's a lot of hyperbole. There people say things all the time that this is the most important thing, or that is, or but when it comes to the choices we're making, they do determine our lives. I mean, there's no exaggeration in that. Excuse me. So as we're thinking about choices, I think there's so many things we can talk about when it comes to choices, but as we're thinking about them, largely today, what I'd like to do is think about the choices we're not making and realize that there's no such thing. And so the choices we're not making, we're making. Doing nothing is a choice, and that's just as much a choice as doing something or doing everything. When two roads diverge in a yellow wood, and we stand there looking at the road less traveled or the one that's more traveled, we can make a choice about which path we take, but we can also choose neither, and we can just stand there. So there's actually three choices. And not taking one of the paths is just as or more significant as taking. Excuse me. 1 second. So I think all of us on this call at the moment live in developed, Western, industrialized nations. We probably all live in the same one, I believe. That's probably not true of everybody that's going to hear this ultimately, but for today, we all live in that environment, and that environment can be characterized in a lot of different ways. But one of the chief ways is choice. We live with the tyranny of choice. In the same way that they say a certain amount of money, a certain income can buy you happiness, right? It can determine your happiness, your quality of life. And beyond that, it makes no difference. And a while back, it may be a little different now, but what comes to my mind was, this was a few years ago, so bump it up a little bit maybe, but it was like, for an individual, if you make around $70,000, or a couple make around 150, you are, when it comes to financial things, are going to be about as happy as you can be. You're going to be about as well as you can be. And beyond that, you're not going to see a big increase in your satisfaction of life, in your, in the things that money can change. That also means, though, then below that, however far below that you are, then it probably does. I mean, anytime we're struggling, anytime we're worried about, we're anxious about bills and, survival, that is a stress that decreases quality of life and life satisfaction. And again, above that level, it's not going to increase or help our quality of life or satisfaction. In the same way that's true, I believe, and I think it bears out with the research, but I'm not citing any research when I say this. I'm not quoting anyone. This is my belief. I believe that there's also this threshold where certain amount of choices increases quality of life wonderfully. But above that, increasing choices beyond that point, and that's probably different depending on whatever we're talking about. But above that, adding more choices actually decreases the quality of our lives. And there's the research suggests that, well, here's one example. When it comes to people who work for a particular company, and that company has retirement funds and accounts and says, hey, you can choose which mutual fund to invest in. When they offered, say, 10 mutual funds, it was staggering the number of people who didn't choose any. They were overwhelmed by the choice. Now you realize, not only are they not investing in their future retirement, but they're missing out on, in many cases, the funds the company they work for would match up to most, I think a lot of the experts say about $5,000 a year, that's matched by the company they work for because of indecision, because of the tyranny of choice. There's too many. If they reduce that by 5, and so there were only 5 mutual funds available, the number of people who made the decision to invest went up. And so there, in every case, in every situation, in every, whatever we're talking about, the clothes you wear, the car you drive, the way in which you spend your free time and your disposable, quote unquote, income, all have a sweet spot when it comes to choices. Getting too few is going to affect your quality of life. Getting too many is going to affect your quality of life. But one of the things that we in the West, in industrialized and developed nations, where we're affluent, we have money, most of us don't understand, haven't experienced true poverty. And even those that are in a range of poverty have not experienced it like it is in many other parts of the world. But we have believed, we've been convinced that freedom is everything. Freedom is what matters most. And you're looking at someone who values his freedom, loves his freedom. In my entire life, I have made my own choices and decisions. My wise and incredible parents from a very early age let me make most of my own choices and decisions, and I value that, and I like that responsibility, and I want that. But we've been so convinced that freedom is everything, and I think we've falsely equated that more choice means more freedom. And that is simply not the case. Or if it is, say it is in a literal sense, we don't actually experience more freedom from that, the more choice. I want you to think about the last thing you purchased. What is the last thing you bought? You spent your money online, in a store, wherever it happened to be. Can you think for just a minute about how many options you had for that item that you purchased? Now, I can't remember the last thing I purchased. Like, actually this weekend, it would have been, probably some coffee or tea or something. I don't know, but or maybe a meal when I was out. I'm not sure. But beyond that, just in general, I can tell you that recently I purchased a guitar. And I purchased it online. And they shipped it to me. In fact, here it is right here. And I'm going to be sending it back to them very soon too. Tuner doesn't work and a couple other issues with it. But when I purchased this, on that one site that I was on, I bet you there were no less than 100, and probably a lot more than that, other guitars. And I'm talking about just models, not the number of guitars, but just different models that I could have purchased. Just when it comes to acoustic guitars, not considering, I should say 6-string acoustic guitars, not considering 12-string or electric or Dobros or anything else, just all those options. And one of the things that happens with all the options you had on your last purchase is that sometimes we get paralyzed but going back to the investment I mentioned earlier, we get paralyzed, and so we don't make any choice. So I'll repeat what I started with. Whatever we're not changing, we're choosing. Let me say it a different way. Whatever we're not choosing, we're choosing. And so we have all these choices, and sometimes it freezes us up. It's like, what? I'm not sure what to do. I'm not sure what should I do? And very, very often we ask experts, and they are not helpful because they get into the details and intricacies of your different options. And those options, sometimes what separates them in every category is minute. It's we can't even understand it really. Think about your cell phone options. Think about your cable or however you get your television or entertainment options, the clothes you wear. What about the type of ketchup or salad dressing I mean, there are so many choices that we can often freeze up or just think, I'm not, I don't know what to choose. What's the right choice? This leads to a second thing. So not only is there paralysis, and that's primarily what we're talking about today, and I want to drive home the point that not choosing is choosing. And if we're choosing not to change something, that's our choice. But beyond that, because there are so many choices and we are inundated with them, very often we regret the choice we made because we think, oh man, what? I mean, yeah, this is fine. This salad dressing tastes fine, but there's probably a better one. Why didn't I get the one with the jalapenos in it? Or yeah, I should have gone with the cayenne ranch. I mean, that was the or the sriracha garlic. I mean, I like all of that. What should I do? And so very often we make a choice and we wind up regretting it. And it may even be subconscious. We may not even be aware of, why am I not really satisfied? It's because there were so many choices that when we make one, there's no way for us to know or even believe or think that we made the right one. So we regret it. Every time we choose to do something with our time, with our money, with our attention, with our focus, with our what we have, resources, we're choosing not to do something else. And by doing so, we can be in the midst of our choice, and rather than fully enjoying it, there's a nagging something needling at the back of our brain saying, man, what if I had been doing what if I were doing the other thing? This is fine. This is, maybe I'm having a really good time and maybe I feel like this is meaningful and worthwhile. But there's something telling me the other thing might have been better. And what if it's just 1% or 0.5% more satisfying, more fulfilling than what I'm doing? Do I sit there and, again, it could be subconscious. We're not even truly aware of it, but some of the satisfaction level is diminished because we are wondering what might have been if we'd have made a different choice. Think about relationships. It could be a significant other relationship. It could be a friendship. So many options. So many options. Say you're in a very unhappy relationship, bad fit, whatever. It's just not good. You can choose to stay, not to make a choice. Whatever we're not changing, we're choosing. That can be our choice. You can choose inaction, which is an action. You can choose passivity, which is an activity. And when we make that choice, we can very quickly and easily become the victim. The world, whoever we're talking about, is doing this to me. I'm not responsible because I didn't make a choice. But I'm saying we are responsible because we did make a choice. Even when we didn't make a choice, that's a choice. And so if you're in an unhappy relationship or no relationship at all or whatever, you think about in the same way you can go to Amazon and order pretty much anything on God's green earth. You can go to any number of dating websites and shop for something else, something other than what you have. Does our ability to travel, to connect online and in so many ways with the rest of the world, does it leave us dissatisfied in these type choices as well? And I'm not talking about some major dissatisfaction. I just mean that little, like, I'm hanging out with my friend from high school thinking, if I had gone with my friends from college or my more recent friends that I've just met in the last couple of years, well, maybe I'd be having more fun. And if rather than doing this book club with this group, why am I not doing the sewing needlework group, or the dinner club? Man, it turns out I'm hungry, and the book club, they have crap food. It's not, I really should be with the dinner club. We drive ourselves crazy because of the tyranny of choice. How do you think we should approach this? I will say that I don't see any scenario besides catastrophe that our choices are going to decrease, that our options are going to lessen. I think they're only going to increase. So how do we deal with this? I think becoming aware of this, becoming aware of the danger of dissatisfaction just because there's so many choices, and when we choose one, we make a choice. If we're aware that this underlying dissatisfaction may just be the result of more choices out there, increasing that awareness and then addressing it, dealing with it head on and saying, you know what, I'm going to make the best choice I can with all the resources I have, all the knowledge, all the experience, all the wisdom, but it's going to be a choice. It's going to be one I make and take full responsibility for. And I'm going to live with that, and I'm going to embrace it. And I'm going to therefore be far more fulfilled than worrying about what might have been, what else is out there. Or I refuse to not make a choice, trying to trick myself into thinking that I'm off the hook, that I'm not responsible, that I can blame someone else or the universe itself for what is happening because I didn't actively make a choice. But that passive choice is just as active as an active choice. So taking full responsibility, choosing, being aware of the dissatisfaction that can creep in because there are so many other choices. Really look at basically what I'm talking about are like opportunity costs, right? So if you choose one thing, part of what you're giving up is the opportunities you had to do other things. Right or wrong sometimes factors in these things. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's not a wrong choice or a right choice. And maybe the difference in the choices is so small, you can't even measure the difference. But even with that, they're not right or wrong. It's just a choice. But I want to make it, and I want to be responsible for it. And if it's wrong, I want to take responsibility. If it's right, I want to take responsibility. If it's neither right nor wrong, which is probably most often the case, I want to be responsible, and I want to make the choice. I don't want to take the passive way out and say, I'm not making a choice. I don't want to try to trick myself into thinking that is valid, because that is a choice I'm making. I want to make the choice. I want to take responsibility for it. And in doing so, I know experientially, I know my satisfaction of life goes up. I want to be careful not to second guess or regret the other choices I didn't make because they take away from the satisfaction of the choice that I did make. That is not to say that I'm not going to continue to be a critical thinker or examine or be self-critical or look at my choices and try to learn from them and grow. I'm going to do that as well. I want to do that simultaneously. But there's a difference in evaluating who we are, what we do, what we're about. Do my choices match the values I claim to have versus an obsessive, compulsive worrying about, am I missing out on something? Did I not do the right thing? That may be more fun, or that may have been more productive, or there's a big difference in those two approaches. Can any of you think about a choice you've not made that needs to be made, that you obviously have made the choice by not making it, but that you've tried to wiggle out of responsibility or of an active choice? Is there something looming, something that's, let's say, suspended because you haven't chosen yet? You haven't, I'm not asking you to share or say, but just give it some thought. Are we actively choosing and taking responsibility and making our best choices and being satisfied because of those choices? And if the world itself is not going to limit our choices, maybe we should. Self-government, self-regulation. I have this habit. I feel like it works very well for me, but I like eating out. I like eating out with friends, going to a restaurant and, enjoying a meal and fellowship. And but what I tend to do is I find something I like at a place, and that's all I ever get. I go to Thai Basil and always get the chicken red curry, 4-level hot. Leave out certain vegetables. I go to Slice House and I get the not so shabby, but I definitely take off the mushrooms and the roast beef and the jalapenos. And one of the workers there one time, she wrote, instead, the slice is called not so shabby, but on my to-go box she wrote not quite so shabby because I took so much off of it. But I get the same thing at these places. And those are two of my favorite places, and I'm always satisfied, always happy. And I don't think, is there something on the menu that I could be, that I would like more? There might be, and maybe one day I'll discover it. And if I'm eating with someone and they have something that looks good and they share a bite, I may discover something I like. I'm not closed to it, but there's something to be said for finding something we like, making that choice and sticking with it. A lot of creative people, productive people, take away choices that don't really matter all that much. For instance, they have essentially a uniform. And so they have a closet full of a certain type of jeans or pants, a certain shirt, maybe they're all the same color. And that's essentially what they wear every day, because they're not going to waste mental energy or time trying to decide, ooh, what am I in the mood for? What should I wear today? What is, like, I'm putting this on. So that mental energy I'm going to use in writing that book, that song, creating that business, solving that problem, those type things. So that's a good, valid approach. We need to gauge and measure our mental activity and capacity and make sure we're spending it on the right things, our creative capabilities, our relational capabilities. You think about, experts say you can really only have 6 truly close relationships, 6 of, deep quality, truly intimate, connected. We have a lot more associations than that, a lot more quote unquote friendships that are, but we have to choose carefully. We only have a certain capacity. The last thing I'll say before I turn it over and hear what you guys have to say is this: of all the choices we make, there's one that is above all else, that is the most important we can make. And that is the choice, no matter what this question, no matter what the situation, no matter what we're confronted with, is the choice for us to choose, actively choose to do what matters most, and to do that first and foremost in every day and every situation. What matters most to us, our choices should reflect that. And maybe they do. And so what we're saying matters most to us, maybe it really doesn't, based on our choices. But we need to examine that and make sure those line up. And we have a finite amount of time, finite creativity, finite intellect, finite capacity for, physical activities and mental and emotional and spiritual. How are we managing those? What are the choices we're making? It determines everything about our lives. And not making a choice is a choice. All right, what you got?
Well, Michael, I appreciate, I'm going to rise to the defense of my obsessive compulsive team members and say that a lot of times, one of my great money saving tips is to wait. When you see something that looks like it might be fun to buy.
Yeah. What a concept. Wait.
The way that I do that is that I use that OCD and I go in and I say, look at all these other choices. Pick out the right one before you go and lay out that money. That does 2 things. Number one is it slows me down. It prevents me from making a knee-jerk choice, which can be bad and can be regretful. But also it gets me closer to the right thing for me. Now, the downside to this is that once I've made that decision and I go to the restaurant, I buy that one thing every time, then it drops off of the menu. And what do? I'm paralyzed. So those are very interesting. The other thing that comes to mind in this discussion is that sometimes the question is just wrong. Sometimes we are not given the right choices. Think about when you're a parent, you want your kid to make a good choice. You give them a bunch of good choices to decide among. You don't throw any horrible choices in there. You just give them the right ones to choose from. Sometimes in my adult life, I'm given just a few choices and I don't get to decide what's actually on the menu. And I need to be cognizant of that. Sometimes the question is ridiculous and you just really don't need to answer it. So those are my comments. Thanks for the topic. It's really made me think a lot.
Excellent. Great topic. Great points. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. That was Michael. Thank you so much for the great topic about choices. And I liked that share, John, very much. I'm thinking about when my ideas about choices. I used to think that there was the perfect choice to be made and I needed to make it, and then that would be decided for all time, forever and ever more. That was done, check. But now I recognize that I make a choice the best that I can at the time based on the information that I have at the time. And over time, I may be given different and new information and I can change my choice. So that was a real revelation to me, that, you know, these choices could evolve. It didn't have to be set in stone forever and ever more. And then the other thing that I was thinking when John was sharing, sometimes in my adult life, I'm given choices, but neither one are very good. That sucks, but I still have choices. So that's just how it is. That's sometimes how things go. And then the last thing I'll say is the whole time you're talking about the overwhelmingness of choice, I can just see myself standing in the toothpaste aisle. Really? Do we need that many different toothpastes? I'm pretty sure they all have the same ingredients. And I have met other people that have joined me, other strangers in the toothpaste aisle with the same overwhelmness of choice. So I really dug the topic. Thanks.
My wife asked me what kind of toothpaste, and I say the red. I want it hot. You know, so if it's got red writing or a red box, that's the kind of, you know, keep it simple.
Hey, I have good news for all of you. As you get older, you have less energy, you lower your expectations, and there's actually less choices to wrestle with. And you just simplify your life more, and it all works out. I think you should call this topic choice anxiety.
That's good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're talking about is, you said as you age, and let's say as you age, maybe you have less energy.
Mm-hmm.
But regardless, you are choosing to simplify your life. You could continue at whatever age. You can make it more complicated and more difficult and more, you know, choices, or you can simplify it. And the earlier in life we learn to simplify, the happier we're going to be and the better a life we're going to have.
Yes, I have one comment. You know, in my younger days, it seemed that I had myriad choices, and I always went for the glitzy, shiny, bright, look at me. And I made a lot of, I guess you'd say, substandard choices, poor choices. And one thing about choices, in many cases, once you make one and you follow down that path and you see that it's wrong, you cannot undo it. So now here I am, Robbie, in my older age, and I see these choices, and I always look like, oh, that kind of looks familiar, and it didn't turn out well the first time. So I really look at everything that is presented, and I oftentimes just said, wait a minute, let's just take a step back. And like John, you said, you just take a step back. Sooner or later, a lot of them, they resolve themselves, and you don't have to do anything. And you're like, wow, I could have done this, or this. And I'm so glad I didn't do anything, because it has taken care of itself. But I like choices. You know, I like to fantasize. If I go this way, what will happen? Not that I'm going to do it, but you know, it's really good to know. So thanks, Michael. It was an interesting
Absolutely.
topic.
Thank you. Well, we're out of time. Thank you all for being here. Go make some good choices. See you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.